Welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, and what a day it has been. For the last few days, most people have predicted and known possibly that the Narendra Modi government would return to power for the next 5 years. But this extent of victory has been unprecedented. The BJP has won about 300 seats on its own. The NDA alliance has returned with close to a two-thirds majority. All traditional analysis of how India votes, whether on caste lines or regional lines, has pretty much been decimated. Electoral math has to be reworked, and the way elections are fought and won has changed, perhaps forever. But before we begin the show and the discussion today, let's take a look at the three most important sound bites from today.
हम कभी दो भी हो गए, लेकिन हम कभी अपने मार्ग से विचलित नहीं हुए। न रुके, न थके, न झुके। कभी हम दो हो गए तो भी, और आज दोबारा आ गए। दो से दोबारा आने तक इस यात्रा में अनेक उतार चढ़ाव आए हैं। दो थे तब भी निराश नहीं हुए, दोबारा आए तो भी न हमारी नम्रता छोड़ेंगे, न हमारा विवेक छोड़ेंगे, न हमारे आदर्शों को छोड़ेंगे। मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में भारतीय जनता पार्टी को जिता है। दूसरी ओर कांग्रेस पार्टी को करारी हार का मुंह देखना पड़ा है। करारी हार। देश भर के अंदर 17 यूनिट ऐसे हैं, 17 यूनिट ऐसे हैं जहां पर कांग्रेस पार्टी को बिग जीरो मिला है, बिग जीरो मिला है। ये प्रचंड विजय दर्शाता है कि आने वाले दिनों के अंदर देश के अंदर ये परिवारवादी पार्टियों का कोई महत्व नहीं रहने वाला है।
बहुत लंबा कैंपेन था और उसमें मैंने एक लाइन रखी थी। मेरी लाइन थी कि मेरे ऊपर जो भी गलत शब्द प्रयोग किए जाएं, मेरे को जो भी गाली लगाई जाए, जो भी किया जाए, मैं प्यार से रिस्पॉन्ड करूंगा। और मैं वो कहना चाहता हूं, चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए, कुछ भी हो जाए, मैं सिर्फ वापस प्यार से बोलूंगा। ये मेरी फिलॉसफी है।
Well, it has been a big day and a lot of equations have perhaps changed. Political equations have changed after today. To understand the broad message coming in from this historic mandate, we're joined by Hitesh Jain of the BJP, Sharmishta Mukherjee of the Congress Party, Akhil Berry, who's the South Asia analyst for the Eurasia Group, joins us today. I'm also speaking with Yogendra Yadav of Swaraj India, and of course with R. Sriram, resident editor at the Economic Times. I'm also joined this evening by Swaminathan Iyer, consulting editor at ET Now. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today on this show. But let me start with Yogendra Yadav, because Mr. Yadav, a few days ago, you said something which some would say was perhaps prescient. You said that the Congress must die for the opposition to rise. Have you been proven right today?
I take no pleasure in saying that that assessment has been vindicated. To be absolutely honest, I would have liked to be proven wrong. That would have given me greater pleasure. The point was not so much against Congress, and today the easiest thing in the world would be to give Congress a kick. I don't want to do that. If everyone is responsible, so am I. We organized farmers movement, but in the last instance, farmers did not go out and vote as farmers. They probably voted as Hindu, they probably voted as Yadav, Kurmi or something. So people like me should also take responsibility. In the case of Congress, I feel that as the principal national opposition, Congress failed to perform its duty to organize, give expression, to articulate and aggregate the disquiet that existed. The simple fact is, and your channel knows it more than anyone else, that our economy is in bad shape. that it was badly handled. And unfortunately, the opposition simply could not convert that into an election issue. So it's a gross failure on the part of opposition, specifically the Congress party. We have seen how poorly the Congress has performed. Wherever it's Congress versus BJP contest, in about 190 or so, Congress has won only 5 or 6 seats. So that's a disastrous performance. Congress doesn't seem to have either a message or a messenger. Its leadership doesn't inspire trust. It doesn't seem to have a vision, doesn't have a strategy, doesn't have a cadre. That's why I said, if you want to look for an alternative in this country, you have to forget Congress, begin afresh. Congress is more an obstacle rather than an aid to this, and hence the metaphor of death. Don't take the metaphor too literally.
But Mr. Yadav, you talked about the Congress failing, but a lot of critics of this government, yourself included, and you spoke about rural distress, many in the media included as well. Do you think that there was a disconnect with what they were saying and with the voters, especially with opposition party leaders? Do you think they could not understand what the voters wanted?
There was no disconnect in the month of January and till mid-February. After Pulwama and specifically after Balakot, everything changes. You remember in January and February, all the political parties were competing with each other to seem to be more farmer friendly than the other. This is exactly what we as farmer activists wanted. We wanted all the parties to take note, to respond to it. But somehow after Balakot, it was almost a perfect ambush on this election. In the earlier years, you had booth capturing. Some petty criminal would capture 2 or 3 booths, would use guns, would use lathi. This was a poll capture. Complete election was being captured, not with guns, but with mics, with television, with screen, with cameras. That is what happened, and the opposition, and I must admit people like us, simply had no response to that. We need to go back to drawing board and think afresh.
Well, what do you think has worked for the BJP and Narendra Modi, Yogendra Yadav? It can't just be incidents like Pulwama and Balakot. Obviously, this mandate is much broader than that.
BJP had a message. The message was not positive. In 2014, it had a positive message. This time, it had a message that aroused fear, anxiety. But it was a message. Mr. Modi knew how to speak to ordinary people. He communicated, and they had a messenger in the form of Mr. Modi, who may not have inspired trust, but he looked strong. He inspired some confidence, even if people didn't trust him to be truthful and so on. And in opposition, the Congress neither had a message nor a messenger. The BJP showed a remarkable will to power. The BJP as an organization could synchronize all the ambitions and energy to fulfill the organizational objective. In the case of opposition, these were personal ambitions clashing with each other, colliding against each other and producing no organizational consequence. The BJP had a first-rate election management machine. To my mind, the most powerful election machine that this country has ever witnessed. Compared to them, the opposition looked amateurish, almost childlike in handling elections. So no wonder the election results were so completely one way, the way they appeared.
Mr. Yadav, we've been saying that this election is a watershed one and the political landscape has perhaps changed forever. Do you think so as well? And what is the future of the Indian polity and the opposition as well?
On the positive side, I see a clear and stable government. I see a clear message that politics of caste coalitions does not pay, that mere opportunistic coalitions do not work, that negative politics of anti-Modism or anything of that kind does not work. These are positive lessons for democracy, for our system. On the negative side, however, I think it would be unjust and I would be failing in my duty if I do not point to two major dangers that we run after this verdict. Number one, the danger of electoral authoritarianism, namely someone who gets elected and says, now I have the people with me, why do we need judiciary, what is this media for, people are with me, what are you doing here? So there are elections and no other democratic institution or functions are allowed to perform. That means serious truncation in your roles, people like you, Tamanna, and our viewers who are watching this. That's serious danger for our democracy. And something like this is not unprecedented. This is happening in Russia, this is happening in Turkey, this is happening in Hungary. I don't want India to be added to that list. The second danger is non-theocratic majoritarianism. That is to say, formally you remain secular, but informally there are two categories of citizens and minorities are reduced to second-rung citizen. I see many developments of this kind, and frankly this election was very polarizing. The Prime Minister, the ruling party went out of its way to raise Hindu-Muslim divide in an unprecedented way. So that raises the second danger, and the larger question anyone who loves this country should ask is, who will fight these two dangers? I do not see the established opposition of this country in any position to do so, least of them the Congress, and therefore I think this country desperately needs an alternative that has to start from scratch, that must start tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yadav, for joining us with those thoughts. And let me open up some of those points that Mr. Yogendra Yadav has made to the rest of the panel. Swami, do you think he has a fair point, or is he, sounding off an alarm that is unwarranted when he talks about, majoritarianism and what kind of powers a brute majority like this brings?
Without doubt, the BJP, while formally secular, is majoritarian because it promotes Hindutva in a way which does not treat everybody as an equal. In practice, whatever may be the formal situation, you will find Muslim cattle traders being beaten up to death. You will not find Hindu transporters being. This is let me not exaggerate this point. Friends of mine of the Muslim community, the Christian community, or when I go out on the election tours and talk to people, the Muslims are terrified, the Muslims are petrified. So it is on the one hand of some comfort that the BJP remains formally a secular party. That is the positive part of it. The negative part of it is that at the ground level, there is a feeling that there is not enough security for the minorities. I think it would be wrong to go along with Yogendra Yadav and say democracy is in danger. I think our democracy is extremely vibrant, extremely resilient. We have lots of people saying, well, under Modi, free speech is being crushed. If you can come and say on TV that free speech is being crushed, it's evidence that free speech is not being crushed because people are allowed to make that particular statement in public. There is a huge variety of opinions allowed in the social media, on television, in the press. So I do not think the overall trends are negative as far as democracy is concerned. Going beyond that to the question of, does the Congress party have to die for an alternative to come up? I think, this is an irrelevancy. An alternative will come up when there are various chief ministers who will come up with ideas and actual performance. This particular election has not been won on a battlefield just of ideas. It's a question of performance. Mr. Modi was a nobody 15, 20 years ago. In Gujarat as chief minister for 15 years, he performed sufficiently well to create an admiration for something called a Modi model. People outside Gujarat were able to to buy that idea. He has had 5 years of implementation, which is very incomplete, and yet enough to give people the feeling that this is better than the Congress model that was there before. So instead of saying let the Congress crash, what we need is some other chief ministers will have to come up, whether of the Congress or some other party, come up with their own ideas, prove their success, and then see whether they can extend beyond their state to the national level. That particular development was not foreseen in the case of Modi. and it cannot be foreseen on who will be the successor or who will be the new rivals thrown up by our democratic process. But I will simply say, at the end of it all, what is going to matter is performance. What is going to matter is not slogans. To say Chaukidar Chor does not get you anything. To say Mr. Modi is interested only in suited, booted people, it gets you nowhere when there is a record fall in poverty. So sloganeering is going to get you nowhere. If the Congress party or anybody else wants to come forward, please show actual good performance. Show a model that helps people on the economic side, on the social side. If you actually deliver at that level, then you have all India prospects.
Sriram, this conversation has been going on in this newsroom, and I'm sure in many newsrooms today, on what does this mandate really mean? What is the message that the viewers have given? And some will say that, you know, they've voted for majoritarianism, or it is Balakot, or it is, you know, issues like the Ram Mandir which has motivated. Others will say, look at the pro-poor schemes that have come about. What is your take on this debate? Because there have been a lot of schemes and people's outreach that has also happened in this government.
I think it's very clear when you look at the mandate, when you look at the votes being polled for the BJP, when you look at their entry into newer areas, especially in the East, and the way they have performed in Karnataka, there are a number of reasons why people have voted for the BJP. And one of the prominent ones, which I think a lot of people have missed out because of the focus on jobs and the focus on GST and demonetization, has been this issue of welfare economics. The fact that Modi has been able to deliver toilets, deliver houses, deliver insurance scheme, deliver gas cylinders, and that it has actually gone to the villages and hamlets, the poor people across the country, and that they have benefited. And a lot of them have actually gone out and voted for Modi. A lot of them have actually gone out and voted for the BJP, whether you are in UP or in Jharkhand. And this targeting has been very specific and very strategic. They have gone into the poorer villages, the poorer districts, the poorer hamlets, and said, okay, who are the guys who don't have these facilities? Let's go give it to them. And all that is being done with a very strategic purpose, that at the end of the day, these guys will come and vote for us. And which is what I think the party has also gone out and approached these people, targeted them, and got them to vote for them. And apart from that, a mandate like this can never be, well, I shouldn't say never be, but a mandate like this can't be just on just one aspect. It's welfare economics, it's strong leadership, it's decisive leadership, it's about Modi's image as a guy who can take decisive action, a guy who sent warplanes into Pakistan, and nobody's, people aren't peering into and analyzing how many did he kill there, did he actually destroy or not, and the Western media is saying that he didn't destroy anything, or Pakistan is saying something. Nobody is really looking at all those things. They're saying that he went inside. He went into Pakistan and gave them a bloody nose. And that's what we like about him. So there are a lot of issues on which people have voted for. And let's also not forget the fact that the opposition has also been very weak. And if you look at the Congress party, and if you look at what Mr. Yadav has been saying, and Swami has also been saying, they had a chance, when they won these 3 states, they had a golden chance to do something with this mandate. Whatever mandate they got, Madhya Pradesh was not a very clear-cut one, but they had a chance to do something with it. What did they do? Rahul Gandhi went and said, 10 days we will give you farm loan waiver. If I don't give it to you in 10 days, we'll sack the chief minister. Did that happen? It's still not happening. And Kamal Nath is still sending letters saying that it's being worked on, it will get done and all that stuff. And a lot of ground reports are saying that people are fed up. If you're promised and you can't deliver. And I think an important point that was also made by some television pundits or some other people, election experts, is that the Congress strategy was somehow not focused on these 3-4 states. Despite the fact that you had fertile ground, you really had a fertile ground in Maharashtra. Many parts of Maharashtra, the rural distress was very, very evident.
No, I think Maharashtra of all is the most shocking. The Congress wipeout in Maharashtra, where they've ruled for so long, is one of the big headlines out of today, undoubtedly. Akhil Berry, I want to welcome you to the show. Akhil Berry of the Eurasia Group is joining us on the show for the first time, and Ian Bremer of the Eurasia Group wrote, in a very I would say a dramatic Time magazine piece, which had a dramatic cover. He wrote a piece where he said that Modi is the only one who can reform or move the reforms track in India. What are you saying today after this historic mandate? Does he now have enough, which he had in term 1 as well, does he now have enough in his hands, enough power to really move the wheel along?
Thank you so Sorry. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be with such distinguished company. I do believe so. Yes. I mean, the mandate allows him to advance a number of reforms that previously he wasn't able to in his first term. So, for example, land reform, labor reform, those were two reforms that he tried to pass in 2014, 2015, but he was stymied by the opposition parties within the Rajya Sabha. Now you've got a situation where he's got the BJP is the largest party in the Rajya Sabha. The BJP is the largest party in the Lok Sabha by far. So now you've got this increased mandate from both houses and also the addition of the coalition parties to help bring those two, especially those two reforms over the finish line.
I'm going to come to the BJP and the Congress spokespersons. Hitesh Jain, it's a big day for the BJP and all BJP supporters. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of congratulations since morning. But as we take in everything that we have seen today, and if you look at what Amit Shah said earlier and Prime Minister Modi said earlier, they talked about now using this mandate to also build consensus. How high do you think that is on the priority list?
Well, that has always been on the high, and Prime Minister always spoke that Bahumat se Sarvamat, and that is where he said that this is the most important part of this election. But this election also given 2 or 3 important message. One, negative politics have been defeated. Second, opportunism has been defeated. But the third most important aspect, which none of the speakers spoke, is the dynasty has been defeated in India. So now on, what will happen in India? It is the politics of merits that will prevail and not the politics of dynasty. The big message is, if you will look at the map of India, the dynasty has been defeated very badly. And one more point I want to make, frankly speaking, with all due respect to Yogendra Yadav, I think his comments are insult to the mandate of the people of India. To say that on one particular issue, if he's continuing to speak the language of 5 years, which people did not like, and that is the reason people have given an overwhelming mandate in favor of the Prime Minister. When you speak about, I mean, there were various factors in this election. The elections about the opportunism, the kind of language that was used by the opposition, and what was the alternative that was presented. As against that, when he was speaking about the farmers and other aspects. Now there was a Swaminathan Commission report which was not implemented from 2004 to 2014. And this was the government which started with the soil health card reforms, including the increasing the MSP.
Agreed.
The Prime Minister said he's committed to doubling the this thing for the MSP.
Because
so to say, I mean, to say that when you get a 48-49% mandate, and then to say that this is for one factor, you are insulting the mandate of the people of India.
No, so Yogendra Yadav is no longer on the panel, so he can't answer your question. But because you brought up the MS Swaminathan Commission report, and I have spoken with Mr. MS Swaminathan himself over the last couple of years quite a few times, and you're absolutely right. His report was not taken up by the UPA. But what happened to it in the NDA? What happened to it in the NDA? It was not taken up either. Another version of this is promised to be implemented, but it hasn't been yet, Hitesh. There is a list of things that have been left undone, and now you have another 5 years to do them.
So, if you will see, not only MS Swaminathan report, now MS Swaminathan report is only one part of doubling about the MSP, but MSP is not the only thing. Soil health, to ensure that the farmers don't get
No, but you spoke about the report specifically. But you spoke about the report specifically.
There are various aspects on which the Prime Minister has been speaking.
Yeah, no, but you brought up the report specifically, and hence
just to say.
Yeah, you brought up the report specifically, and that's why I spoke about it. But I get your point.
I will tell you, Mr. Yadav said the farmers thought that he is a Hindu and he is voted. That is not the case. That is again insulting the mandate of that farmer, just to say, oh, you voted on the caste line. I mean, what kind of arrogance is this? After, if you do not get the message, people do not like. I mean, look at Mr. Yogendra Yadav. Till 2014, he was calling corrupt. He was calling farmer friendly. Congress government, for the 10 years, he gave all the names. He started the Anna agitation. And suddenly in 3 years, only reason, if his only anger is he's against Narendra Modi. He dislikes him. And he also belongs to that category who got defeated, who always use the negative politics, that if we do not like that man and everything he does, we find a fault with that. So that kind of politics has also been defeated today by the people of India.
Okay, Sharmishta Mukherjee, I have come to you last, but that's also because you have to respond to a lot of comments that have been made on the show, and invariably when you talk about such a huge victory, there is also an equally large defeat. Obviously, I mean, there are reports that Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi have offered their resignations. We do not know what will happen with that. But from here on, what is the way forward? And as Hitesh Jain said, has this negative assault on, Prime Minister Modi, is that what has been rejected, or just was their message stronger than yours?
Election defeat or win of this magnitude is never monocausal. So there are various factors, and obviously the party will introspect very seriously into what are those reasons. One of the immediate reason, of course, what came to my mind, and I would like to congratulate Mr. Modi not only on his stupendous victory, but also his immense ability to change the narrative. In 2014, his narrative was development, sabka saath, sabka vikas. But this time we just saw that it was Hindutva, we saw that this was fear psychosis, it was Pakistan, it was Pulwama. So it was completely change of a narrative. And we were, on the other hand, we are talking about the lack of employment, we are talking about the agrarian crisis, we are talking about bad economy. But yes, we failed in getting down, in percolating down these messages to the people in a convincing manner. So that has been a failure, I absolutely admit that, and definitely that is the reason where we are today.
Hitesh, you want to respond to that? Because Sharmishta Mukherjee is echoing in some part the point that Yogendra Yadav was making. Is it that kind of majoritarianism which has finally
like to add another point?
Let him respond first, Sharmishta. Let him respond.
I would just like to
let me tell you, Tamanna, one of the important aspects.
That what Mr. Hitesh
Sharmishta Mukherjee and Yogendra Yadav.
Mr. Yogendra Yadav, calling him that he's just a minute.
Okay.
Let me just complete. That this also shows the arrogance of the BJP spokesperson, that he is not willing to admit the interpretation of another person. That is the problem with BJP.
Okay. No,
so
today
is their Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister has said that
let Hitesh respond. Listen, this is
Tamanna, let me now
respond. This is a platform to listen to all ideas. 1 minute, Sharmishta, I got your point. Let Hitesh Jain respond.
See, when people speak about fear psychosis, it is when you create a false fear psychosis. You go and you create a fear psychosis where you go to the Muslim community, you go to the Christian community, the narrative they started that Christians are in danger, Muslims are in danger. Now, this is what has been defeated today. I don't think the fear psychosis was from the BJP side. The fear psychosis, in fact, Congress leader yesterday, Roshan Beg, who's the minister in the Karnataka, he's the senior leader, and he said that the Congress politics of creating a scare amongst the Muslim community is not going to win the elections. Muslims should join the BJP. They should join hands with BJP. There is absolutely no fear. This is not my language. This is the language of senior Congress leader Roshan Beg, who has been the minister and who has been the MLA for last 25-30 years in the Karnataka from the Congress state. I mean, he admitted on the floor that the Congress attempt and this attempts of people like Yogendra Yadav to create fear psychosis is also one of the reasons why Congress is defeated. It is up to them whether they want to learn the lessons or they want to call the names. I mean, they did this whole thing for the last 5 years. What they were doing?
Okay.
They were only calling us name. They were calling us niche. They were calling us chowkidar. They had every kind of arrogance. And see what has happened to them.
So admittedly, it has been a bitter contest and it has gotten ugly, but on both sides.
Derogatory statement, even I'm sorry, the Prime Minister is also guilty of that. He didn't even spare the dead martyrs.
Okay, you're talking about the attack on Rajiv Gandhi. No, again, it has been a very bitterly fought election, and we can just hope that the bitterness kind of subsides in the next few days, and all the election emotions start cooling down. But I want to get Swaminathan Iyer into the kind of debate we've been seeing about what the message is from the Indian voter, and to some extent, like you said, that there may be this appeal of majoritarianism, but it has to be bigger than that, isn't it? Because from Odisha to West Bengal to increased vote shares in the southern parts of India, across various parts of the country, the BJP has managed to move forward. Now, have they perfected the formula of presenting what that particular set of voters want to hear? So a different solution for a different set of voters. Is that how they've moved forward?
No, I think it's actual performance that counts. The idea that elections are won and lost on the basis of slogans or on the basis of having a party machine, I think that is just wrong. It's actual performance. It's actual performance along with the question of how credible are you. The Congress party, for instance, can shout Chaukidar Chor, but the Congress party itself has such a scam-ridden history that the Congress party lacks credibility when it goes out on this. In terms of performance again, you will find that there are some chief ministers, not necessarily only of one party, but if they perform well, they get elected again and again and again. Whereas other people who are going on various slogans, whether it is majoritarianism, whether it's caste, these things come and go, you get these shifts. So I think the important thing is not that India has become a majoritarian country. There has been a change in the vote share, but I think you can justify this simply on the ground that the BJP, from being a small North Indian party, has been spreading, has continued to spread. More importantly, it has actually delivered and is carrying credibility. Now look at a thing like Swachh Bharat. What is new about sanitation? Did not Mahatma Gandhi say this is one of the most important things? Has not the Congress party for 50, 60 years said, yes, this is important, we must do it? But who actually did it and implemented it at a ground level successfully? Now, of course, I've been around in the villages and 20-30% of toilets definitely are not working. But if you have gone from, say, 30-35% of functioning toilets to 70-75%, it is a substantial achievement, and this lends credibility that this is not just a slogan. Jan Dhan Yojana, the expansion, again, there are various glitches, various people have got left out, it's not complete. And yet the expansion is fantastic. It has actually reached the people. So at the end of it all, I think it is performance that matters. On a number of issues, this government has performed. There is a lot of talk about larger issues like, is there a problem of jobs? Yes, there is some kind of problem. Is there a problem on farm prices? Yes, there is a problem. Is there any evidence that the Congress party would have done better on these areas? Does the Congress party have credibility? No. So I would say performance plus credibility. These are the two things that have won Mr. Modi this particular election. It's not just slogans. It is not majoritarianism alone, although that is one part of the deal.
Okay, no, so I'm just going to quickly take Sriram's comment on that, because a lot of, a lot of these schemes, and some of them which Swami has spoken about, have also been countered. Like, for example, the Ujjwala Yojana, people got one cylinder, they couldn't pay for the second one, or, Swachh Bharat, there are toilets, there's no water, electrification is just reached the outside of the village, not in the house. So is it about relative performance then, that at least something has happened? So if not Achhe Din, okay Din are here, so then these are the guys who are going to bring the Achhe Din?
Yeah, something like that. And also one should realize that when you talk about these issues, I mean, there will always be some glitches somewhere. Some places the toilets may not be working, in some places the electricity wouldn't be working properly, or some poor households will say that, look, I mean, I'm fine, I got the electricity, but I can't kind of pay the bill and renew it. So those things will be there, but there are also a lot of cases where people have actually benefited and said, okay, I'm going to go out and now and get one more cylinder, or do more refills, or pay my electricity bill and continue to have, because there are a lot of benefits that come with it. If you haven't had electricity at all and you suddenly get electricity and your entire family benefits, you are going to ensure that you pay your bill on time, or you try and get to ensure that the electricity continues to
and
be
also
there.
because let's talk about what kind of an India we are in. People want electricity, and also the first thing they want to do is they want to charge their phones. Everyone wants to be connected across India. So this is a newer India in that sense, a younger India in that sense, and this is what they've voted for. I'm going to take a very short break. When we come back, the top 10 key takeaways from Mandate 2019, and one big question along with that. Have we moved firmly towards a presidential style of democracy and campaigning? We're coming back with that. Don't go away. Well, Namo 2.0 is a definite reality, but look at the size of it. If you're wondering what to make of all the deluge of numbers hitting you today, we've tried to break it down for you. The top 10 key takeaways of this election. Number one, definitely Modi has redefined India's political landscape, perhaps forever, because it is a return, and they have been 2 terms before, but to this extent, with an increased vote share, the BJP touching 300 by itself this time round. Look at what's happened in Mahagathbandhan. They threat in Uttar Pradesh. They've managed to stave that off. Has voting patterns on caste lines been redefined to a large extent? Another alliance in Bihar also failed spectacularly. It is an embarrassment for the RJD and the Congress there. The Congress has faced its worst rout in Maharashtra, where in some parts the BJP faces a triple anti-incumbency. The grip of the BJP on the Hindi heartland has deepened and widened at the same time. Massive gains there in the Hindi heartland states. They've definitely arrived on the scene in Bengal and Odisha. Mamata Banerjee and Naveen Patnaik will not perhaps sleep well for the next few days, because they know they're breathing down their neck. Southern states in India have relatively been immune to Modi's charms, except of course Karnataka. They made some inroads into Telangana as well. Kerala and Punjab have remained the sole face savers for the Congress party. But big picture, the youth of India and rural India has rallied behind the BJP. That's very clear from the numbers that have come in. And caste-based politics, especially in northern India, have seen a big setback. Another big thing. Have we moved firmly towards a presidential style of elections? Let me once again come to R. Sriram on this. This is a parliamentary democracy, but it was very clear from the get-go that all the candidates nominated by the BJP were representations of Modi. Look at like a candidate like Sunny Deol in Gurdaspur, parachuted at the last minute, gave a soundbite to a channel saying that I really don't know anything about Balakot. And he's fighting from Gurdaspur, and he has won.
Yeah. Look, as far as the presidential form of government is concerned, I think you should remember that several times in the past, and it's happened to the Congress party as well, and it's happened a lot of times at the state level, leaders, powerful, towering leaders with charisma and personality have managed to not just improve their electoral prospects, but also to continue to dominate the political scene for a long time. We've seen that many occasions across states. We've seen that in southern states. We've seen that in Bengal. We've seen that in Maharashtra. We've also seen it at the central level. Don't forget Indira Gandhi. Don't forget Rajiv Gandhi. I mean, those campaigns were presidential style campaigns. When the Congress campaigned in 1984 or 1989 or 1971, they were campaigning on one person and his or her ability to pull things off and give whatever the people needed. Vajpayee to some extent was like that, though he didn't really have that kind of a...
So are we back there? Because there was a departure from that for quite some time.
There was a departure from that because you had a leader in the Congress party who had taken a back seat. For about 10 years, Sonia Gandhi was there, but she was not really in the government. She was in the NAC. Rahul Gandhi was there, but he was just an MP. He was not doing much at that time. So you had a prime minister who was not elected but nominated, and now you have a situation where the BJP has a very powerful and a very popular leader, and that leader is going out and getting votes for the party and doing things that probably were done about 20-30 years back. And this is something that we have to probably get used to as long as
the
BJP...
I have Mr. Jayant Sinha on the phone line with us right now, joining us on this India development debate. Mr. Sinha, thank you for speaking with us here at ET Now, and of course, many congratulations on this big day. What are the biggest challenges before Modi 2.0 right now. It's a massive mandate, but it's also come at a time when the Indian economy and the global economy is facing some rough weather, pun intended there, for MOS Civil Aviation.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on your show. It's been a historic day for India and certainly for us here in Hazaribagh. In Hazaribagh, we have won by the largest margin in all of Bihar and Jharkhand, and perhaps among the highest vote counts across the country as well. So quite an extraordinary mandate across the country and for me here in Hazaribagh. So an extraordinary day. And of course, now we turn to the agenda for the new government. How do we build a new India? And I think our priorities are quite clear. We, of course, have an economy right now that is doing about as well as any Indian economy has done. Our GDP growth rate is strong. All our macroeconomic parameters are very robust. This is almost better than any time in history for India. And certainly, relatively speaking, as we look across the world, there is no other large economy that is doing as well as India is right now. What we now need to do to build on this very strong foundation, this very robust situation that we are in, is to further accelerate growth. And we've done most of the hard work in terms of dealing with all of the challenges that we had inherited from the UPA government. We really have to, of course, ensure that private investment picks up, that we get more jobs created for our young people, and very importantly, we lead as far as innovation is concerned, so that we build an innovation-driven economy that can power us through the middle income trap, enable us to keep growing on a sustainable basis for decades. So those are some of the important things we have to do right now. Of course, we have been thinking and working on many of these priorities already. So we have a very, very clear sense of what we need to do going forward.
Mr. Sinha, there has been a lot of talk about a consumption slowdown hitting the Indian economy, and it's been seen in auto sales numbers, in quarterly results of large FMCG companies. Do you think that is a real concern, and where are the solutions for something like this?
Any growth slowdown, of course, is of concern to us, but we have to diagnose the situation appropriately. There are cyclical factors at work, and then there are structural factors at work. The cyclical factors that we need to consider, obviously, is that we've gone through a very intense election season, and during the election season, some types of consumption, particularly consumer durables, will slow down because people are waiting and pausing in terms of what comes next. So there is a bit of a cyclical aspect to it that we need to consider. Obviously, real interest rates in India continue to be high. Inflation is, in fact, slowing down even further. And our hope is that the RBI takes that into account and obviously brings down real interest rates even further. So that's, I would say, the cyclical side of the story. Now, when we look to the structural side of the story, what we are seeing globally is, in fact, a completely unprecedented trade war between the two largest economies in the world, the US and China. And when that happens, obviously, we are going to see significant impacts for all economies that are part of the global trading system. And that is the structural aspect that we need to take into account. What is happening to global trade, what is happening to exports, and therefore what is happening to the global economy as a whole. So that is a structural thing that we will have to deal with. It seems that not just President Trump, but most of the decision makers in the United States are really in the mood right now to take it to China and try and ensure a fairer trading regime as far as China is concerned. That's a big structural change to the global trading system that we're going to have to deal with. So these are the issues that we are considering and evaluating right now. But as I said, we know our priorities well. We know exactly what our agenda should be. And so we will immediately get to work and start addressing some of these challenges.
Now, where on the agenda are, and I'll just name three priorities which a lot of people hoped would be taken care of or looked at in term one of the Modi government, namely land reforms, labor reforms, and privatization, if I just name three marquee sort of issues. And there was a hope that the Modi government, with its huge mandate, even then would take it further. Now that the BJP and allies are more comfortably placed in the Rajya Sabha as well, can we hope to get cracking on these three?
Well, I think those are a somewhat simplistic, depiction of what the inhibitors or the barriers in the economy right now. Anybody who's done economics 101 will immediately start saying land, labor, capital. But that is a very simplistic view of the world. The reality is we need to understand what is it that's inhibiting global competitiveness for India. What is it that's required to make the Indian economy even more innovation-driven and even better positioned for the long run? And we have to look at it from that perspective. And the moment you start looking at it from that perspective, then you go sector by sector, industry by industry, trying to understand where are the barriers to growth, where are the barriers to investment, and you start dealing with those. So it really has to go industry by industry as opposed to making a sweeping generalization about land, labor, etc. I don't think that's the right way to look at matters. I think we have to look at it sector by sector, which is effectively what we've been doing. Certainly in aviation, we've done that. We've done that in real estate. We've done it in telecom. We've done it in construction. We've done it in highways. So in every sector, we have taken very bold, important structural steps to improve the functioning of each of these different industries. So that's really the way you have to look at it. Now, as far as labor is concerned, obviously, various states have taken important steps, and I will remind you that as labor is concerned in the garment industry, Jharkhand has taken very important steps. Our labor policies now are extremely competitive with Bangladesh, with Vietnam, and when you speak to garment companies, they'll tell you that putting factories up in Jharkhand is extremely cost effective now, and they can compete with a factory in Jharkhand with any factory anywhere in the world. So that's really the way we have to think about it. We obviously have, therefore, in Jharkhand dealt with both the land as well as the labor issues and all other factors of production to ensure that we are globally competitive. So we have to get down to that level, look at it industry by industry, state by state, and address these factors of production, again, as I said, to ensure that the Indian economy is globally competitive and innovation-driven. I'll also remind you that India is now the second or third largest startup nation in the world in terms of venture capital, in terms of private equity. And the amount of venture capital and private equity, which is a good indicator of how innovation-driven our economy is, has gone up 3 times in the last 5 years compared to the UPA. So all of these very fundamental steps have been taken. In fact, I was in the finance ministry when we put in place the whole AIF regime to enable domestic venture capital and private equity funds to get launched and more money to pour in that way as well. So those are the things that one has to recognize. Those are the ways in which we are powering this economy.
Absolutely, and there's going to be a huge challenge ahead. But tonight, Mr. Sinha, you are a winning candidate from Hazaribagh. Just a couple of questions on that, and just to look back at what kind of an election battle this has been. It's been bitter. It has obviously been very hard fought and successfully fought by the BJP, but the acrimony percolated sometimes to dangerous levels. And tonight people are asking what the people of India has voted for, what it means for the fabric of India. What would you say to all of these people, and what are your comments on some of these concerns?
Very simple way of looking at this election. If you remember in 2014, our slogan was Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. In 2019, we've added something to that slogan. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. We have earned the trust of the people of India by delivering in terms of development, by delivering in terms of a corruption-free, honest, efficient, hard-working government, and we've delivered in terms of national security. When you present that compelling package to the people of India, you earn their trust and you win this historic mandate. That's all there is to it. Now, when the campaigning actually starts and we have our opponents descending to unbelievable levels of rhetoric and talking and behaving in ways that is completely unseemly, then of course the campaigning becomes somewhat bitter and unacceptable, frankly, in many ways. But we are past all of that right now. I think it's time to go out and build a new India. We have received the mandate of the people for the work that we've done, the performance that we've delivered.
Yeah, that's a great message, Mr. Sinha. Before I leave you, may I ask how we will be seeing you in the new cabinet? Will we be seeing you in the new cabinet? Any thoughts on that?
I am a party worker. I do what the party asks me to do.
I knew you'd say that, but I had to ask. Thank you, Jayant Sinha, senior BJP leader and the winning candidate from Hazaribagh, speaking with us on the show. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. We've run out of time, but I want to take away from one message which has come out from what Mr. Sinha and others have said. Yes, this has been a long, bitter election. It has gotten ugly. Social media has amplified some of the honestly bile and hatred that we've seen, and it's come from all sides. Now that the mandate is in, can we all move forward and look at it in a very positive way, which includes everyone in this great country of India? With that message, I want to thank all of you for joining us today.